I can still picture that night clearly. She stood beside me at the company gala, twirling her glass of wine, half listening as I spoke about the business I was struggling to build. Her name was Leah, and back then, I honestly believed she was my future. I told her about the sleepless nights, the risks, and the near failures that almost broke me. She looked at me, offered a faint smile, and said, "You're trying too hard. Not everyone gets to make it." It wasn't encouragement. The mockery in her tone said it all. I laughed it off, convincing myself she was just tired. But deep down, something cracked. A few days later, I signed a contract that changed everything. My startup landed its first big investor. I couldn't wait to share the news with her, expecting excitement, maybe pride. Instead, she chuckled and said, "Calm down. It's just luck. Don't start thinking you're someone important now." Then, at that very same event, she turned and walked over to another man, Adrian, a smooth, wealthy executive with a polished charm. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm casually, and kept glancing back at me like she wanted me to notice. That was the moment it hit me. She was never impressed by me. She was waiting for someone who had already made it, while I was still climbing. She wanted someone already standing at the summit. I stood there quietly, holding my drink, watching her laugh at everything Adrian said like he was the most fascinating man in the room. It hurt, but I stayed silent. I just watched, and I remembered something inside me shifted that night. I stopped craving her validation. I stopped trying to prove myself to someone who didn't care whether I rose or fell. I went home, opened my laptop, and worked like everything depended on it. While she was out chasing attention, I was chasing purpose. While she filled her feed with rooftop photos, I was building something real, something that wouldn't fade when the lights went out. Weeks turned into months, and my business grew faster than I could have imagined. New offices, new employees, new contracts. Money started flowing. My name began appearing in articles. But I never called her. I didn't send a message. Not out of bitterness, but because I didn't need her approval anymore. She had become a distant chapter in a story I'd stopped rereading. Then one day, out of the blue, she called. Her tone was casual, as if nothing had happened. "Hey," she laughed. "I saw your interview on TV. Look at you now, big man, huh?" I smiled. "Yeah, things are going well." She paused, waiting, expecting me to ask her out to reconnect. I didn't. I ended the call politely with, "Take care." There was a silence. She didn't say anything. That was the first time she realized she was losing her hold on me. Reality hit harder a month later, at a friend's engagement party. I didn't walk in alone this time. Beside me was Arya, the woman who believed in me when no one else did. She never cared about the money or the status. She'd been there for the 2 a.m. breakdowns, the rejections, the failures. She held my hand when I had nothing, and now that I had everything, she still held it the same way. Not tighter, not looser, just steady, real. Leah noticed us from across the room. At first, she smiled, confident I'd come running to her like before. But when she saw my hand interlock with Arya's, that smile disappeared. She walked over with a nervous laugh. "So this is new." I nodded calmly. "This is Arya, the woman who stayed when no one else did." The words hit harder than any argument could. Her voice shook slightly. "So you don't miss me at all?" For the first time, I met her eyes and said, "I don't waste time missing something that was never real." Silence. The music kept playing, but for her, time froze. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, not as a man she'd overlooked, but as the one she could no longer reach. Later that night, as Arya and I were leaving, I saw Leah standing alone by the balcony. No laughter, no flirting, just quiet regret in her eyes. She wasn't crying, but she was breaking. Not because I'd moved on, but because I'd done it without looking back, without anger, without revenge, just peace. As I passed by, she whispered softly, "You really don't need me anymore, do you?" I stopped, gave a small, genuine smile, and said, "I stopped needing someone to believe in me once I believed in myself." Then I walked away. No dramatic goodbye, no resentment, just closure. And that's when she finally understood Success isn't about having someone who laughs when you fall or who stays only when you shine. It's about finding someone who stands beside you, whether the world is cheering or quietly waiting for you to fail. And by the time she understood that, I was already gone. Not angry, not bitter, just gone.